welcome to our April Lunch and Learn. I am Amanda Lakin, the Director of Communications and Marketing for the Coalition. And as always, just a couple of announcements. To our Coalition members who are registered for Affordable Housing Day, just a reminder, it's coming up on Monday, May 5th. I just sent an email out today. We are going to have an advocacy training for those who are attending. It will be tomorrow at 12:30. So please join that. It will help you kind of just get prepared for some talking points, crafting a personal statement, all to help us prepare for a great day of advocacy next month. We have our May Lunch and Learn already up and ready for all of you to register. We're going to be celebrating Affordable Housing Month with a panel discussion kind of focusing on affordable housing policy, finance, and community impact. And then lastly, still a couple months away, but we still just want to remind everybody of our 2025 Nevada Housing Conference. It will be October 15th and 16th at Circa Resort and Casino, Las Vegas. And we will soon be sharing some details of a tribal conference that we will be hosting on October 14th. So stay tuned for details. As always, reach out to me if you have any questions. And I'm going to hand it over to our Executive Director, Maurice Page.
All right, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for sharing your lunchtime with us. We are really happy, and I'm super excited to be having this conversation today. Today, I will be moderating a critical conversation on economic development and where it meets housing affordability. And so, with that, as we get started, let's all just get straight to the facts, right? Nevada is short 80,000 affordable rental homes for extremely low-income households, and at the same time, our state is projected to add tens of thousands of jobs over the next decade, especially in logistics, manufacturing, clean energy, and tech. But here's the challenge, and this is what we all know: our housing supply is not keeping pace with the economic growth, which is putting an ultimate strain on both families and employees. So this conversation is important because housing is no longer just a social issue, it's an economic imperative. Without enough attainable housing, affordable housing, businesses will struggle to recruit and retain workers, families will be priced out of our communities, and our state economics competitiveness will suffer. So today, we'll hear from leaders who represent business, capital, and community. We'll explore how local chambers, our regional development authorities, CDFIs are stepping up to bridge the gap between job creation and housing supply. We're also looking at new tools like the Nevada AB 540, which creates a first of its kind attainable housing account to support households earning up to 150% of the area median income, as well as federal initiatives that could be better leveraged here at home. So our goal is simple for today: to spark new partnerships and ideas that will help us meet this moment, because building Nevada's future means building housing and economic opportunity together. So with this being said, definitely would love to welcome Taylor Adams, Alex Vasquez, and Ryan Johnson. I will go ahead and allow them to introduce themselves, their organizations, and why this conversation means so much to them. I'll start with Taylor.
Maurice, thank you so much. It's great to be with you today. Thank you for pulling this group together, and thanks to everyone from around Nevada who's joined us for their lunch hour. So I'm the chief executive of the Economic Development Authority of Western Nevada. If you live in Northern Nevada, we're more commonly known as EDAWN, and obviously housing is critical to particularly housing for our workforce is critical to the future of our region and really to the future success of my organization. So glad to be here to be able to talk about what we do and how we're going to take it on.
Excellent. Thank you, Taylor. Alex?
Good afternoon again, everybody. My name is Alex Vasquez. I'm proud to serve as the Assistant Treasurer for the Latin Chamber of Commerce in Las Vegas, and I'm also the Young Professionals Network Chairman for that organization. And my day job is I am a team leader, a real estate team leader in Las Vegas as well. Our team helped 65 families purchase homes last year. Everything from a starter condo up into larger properties. And I also represent a local Las Vegas builder that has been in business in Las Vegas for over 20 years and only does business in Nevada. Thank you. Glad to be here.
Excellent. Thank you so much. And Ryan.
Thanks, Maurice. Good afternoon, everybody. Ryan Johnson, I'm the Managing Director of Real Estate for New Jersey Community Capital. We are the largest CDFI in New Jersey. We are a 40-year-old company. We touch all aspects of community development. And since, as we started in New Jersey, but have since expanded in 2018 to Florida and New York State. And since then, we have been investing up and down the I-95 corridor, Texas and California. Primarily do that both on the debt side. I run the real estate equity side, and then also through our SBIC, which invests equity and debt into small businesses. Happy to be here and join the conversation.
Excellent. Thank you, Ryan. I appreciate you stepping in and being on the call today. So let's go ahead and dive in. So the first question that we have is, what has inspired your organization to engage in affordable housing conversations or investments? Would anyone like to just kind of jump in? I'll have that as a broad question.
I'll go first. So for us, as I mentioned just a minute ago, it's critical to meet the growing demands of our major employers. We've had, and I don't just mean in our industrial community. Yesterday, I had a great conversation with some of our healthcare leaders as well, and even in, when we talk about you would think not just nurses and people on the front end of the political side, but we actually have physicians that are struggling to find homes in Nevada. When you look at the debt burden that they're feeling when they first come out of school, and how lean things can be. So for us, housing affordability is really a critical issue to driving the future of our economy. And you add in the fact that the federal government owns 86, give or take, % of the land in Nevada. We are somewhat constrained as it relates to site availability to even get this conversation started and move the needle. So for us, it really is about ensuring that we can continue to deliver call it the cultural pillars that make Nevada such an amazing place to be, with this incredible high quality of life, to future generations. So that's our motivation.
I'll go next. I echo also on what Taylor just mentioned about the affordable housing, and I'll add as well that we support the contractors and the builders and the labor force within our community, right? Just to increase everybody's lifestyle in Nevada.
And same for us. We've been doing it for a long time, but as a CDFI, we're almost tasked to invest in the communities. I'll call them challenged or underserved communities that we look at. Again, we try to be very holistic with it. I think for us too, we're doing a lot of the deals that the larger institutions will not do. And then we're also doing deals, working a lot with emerging developers and operators and kind of building them up to get to that next level. But we like to touch everything. We think small business and real estate goes together, and it just goes with workforce development as well.
Excellent. Thank you. So Taylor and Ryan, I'll kind of direct this question towards you. When you talked a little bit, it was spoken about construction and the rising and trying to integrate businesses. So from a regional economic development perspective, or from a agency perspective, what can we do, or what can other business leaders do to mitigate the impact of rising construction costs due to global supply chain challenges that we're seeing right now?
Well, first,
Alex, you want me to go first?
Yes, please.
Go ahead,
yeah,
Taylor.
go, Alex, go. Or you want me to go, or Alex go? I'm good either way.
Are they Taylor?
Yeah, sure. So first and foremost, we could get these tariffs off the table. And I don't mean that to be an overtly political statement. I just mean that to be we're certainly down the road. We may see manufacturing come back to the United States. In the short term, what we're seeing is a pretty rapid increase in construction materials costing. And so we see that most notably in the steel industry right now. I mean, we're seeing some real headwinds as it relates to the cost of materials in the construction industry, because we don't make everything in this country that routes into construction. And so again, that's not meant to be at all political. That's just meant to be a comment on the ground for somebody who's dealing with this and is trying to keep projects alive in the face of what is a very uncertain economic environment. I mean, for goodness sakes, the chair of the Federal Reserve said yesterday that if we don't see things calm down by May 31st, they may be declaring us in recession. Well, that's not good for anything that we're trying to do here. And so, so for me, I think it's critical that we see our what is our markets calm down a little bit and return to certainty, just so that we can actually, I don't know, find a pitch that we can hit. The ball was moving in our direction. We were seeing rates start to come down. We saw big increases in construction materials cost in the pandemic. Most of that was working its way out of the system to actually a post-inflationary environment that was getting back into equilibrium. Over the last 3 weeks, we've seen all of that go away again. And so, and again, do I think it's a permanent condition? No, but I do think that it's critical that we find some sense of normalcy in the coming weeks so that we can get back onto the glide path that we were to get materials cost and pricing back in line with a deal that will pencil. I mean, at the end of the day, no developer is going to build a project that's not going to make money. That's not what they do. And so the thing is, and there's no developer that's sitting on the sidelines on purpose. If the market is right for develop, they will. If the market's right for development, they will develop. And so I think it's critical that we get the market back into equilibrium as quickly as we can, so that we can start seeing some construction starts and start solving these problems. And so, guys, I apologize if that was a little bit of a rant, but that's what I'm dealing with every day right now, just trying to keep anything along. Alex, please take it.
Thank you, Taylor. And on the real estate side, I do see that slowdown, right? Particularly with buyers and the interest rates and the fluctuations. And of course, also the people that want to remodel or buy a house and remodel it, the not just the interest rates, but the price hikes. It's putting a big slowdown because of these quotes that were good just 30 days ago are no longer good, right? The contractors are saying, hey, we're going to have to raise our prices. And again, that just slows us down even more. So unfortunately, it's just one of those, like, I fully support what you're saying, Taylor. I do think we need to get past these tariffs and back onto the right track.
And I would echo Taylor and just say, since COVID, it's been crazy from a construction standpoint. We really, I also say people never go down on their prices once they know that they can get that price. So it's been even more challenging since COVID for us. And it's a little scary. I think there's a little bit more of a meeting of the minds when it comes to buyers and sellers in terms of pricing. It was getting there. I think everybody's going to have to adjust now. But the thing specifically in New Jersey, I know Maurice, you wanted me to touch on this, is all of the projects that have really been getting done have had a lot of subsidy. We have a couple programs that have really been carrying it. And hence, sans those programs, we'd be in a much different situation. So there's only a few places where even market rate is even working right now. So the construction cost issues are very, very challenging for all of us. We're all watching them, and something has to happen.
So, and I think that's a great transition, because we want to really be able to grasp, and I don't know if we're looking at other states and maybe what they're doing as best practices to where they are trying to respond to these cost pressures and the economics of how things are being flushed out. And maybe Ryan, you can directly talk to this and elaborate a little bit more about, how affordable housing and how market rate projects are being done in New Jersey. But I know here in Nevada, we're having a huge issue. We're having our market rate multifamily developers not being able to move forward with any projects just because of the cost of labor, because of the cost of lumber, and aluminum and other issues. And so after this year, next year, there is really nothing on the docket. And then even with the affordable housing development arena, what we're looking at as well is after next year, we're going to be slowing down tremendously. We were very fortunate enough to have ARPA funds, HM&I. We've gone through that multiple times, where we've been able to build 3,400 new units that will be coming online by the end of 2026. However, after that, we will be stuck to 1 or 2 projects a year, which will only be about 300 units. Stated at the top of the hour, we're 80,000 short. That's just for affordability. When you talk about market rate, we're roughly at about 150,000 as just in Southern Nevada. Overall, we're roughly at about 190,000 as a state that we need housing, and that would be single family, that would be multi-family properties, and that would be affordable housing. So again, just going back to the question, what is happening in New Jersey, maybe in the tri-state area, that you're seeing, observing, monitoring? How are folks dealing with all of the issues that are coming around? Is there any legislation that is being passed or looked at, that maybe even Nevada could look at going forward? Our session, of course, is almost coming to an end, but going forward, maybe there's some other opportunities.
Yeah, I would start with saying, obviously increasing density and zoning is one tool that we've definitely been touching on both sides of the river, both New York and New Jersey. ADUs are becoming more prevalent here in New Jersey. New York just densified a bunch of other neighborhoods without parking. So they're doing whatever they can on the zoning side to get more units. I think from a subsidy standpoint, I would generally just say that single family housing does not get the attention that it needs to from a subsidy standpoint here. We do have the Affordable Housing Trust Fund, which is the state one, and then also the national. National focuses more on the single family. But on the multifamily side, we use the low-income housing tax credit, the home fund, CDBG, as everybody else. The big program that came out over the course of the last few years is called the Aspire Tax Credit Program. And essentially, that's a 10-year tax credit that can give you up to 60% of your cost into your deals, that's given to developers where they actually have to take the responsibility of selling tax credit, which makes it difficult. But it's a $1.1 billion program. It can be coupled with the low-income housing tax credits, and that literally has been driving development for both large market rate and affordable projects. There is an actual uptick if you do have an affordable component, which makes it better, but that really has been the tool that has been moving things on our end. And so without that, again, it would be very, very difficult for us to do that. The other thing that the governor is doing here from a legislative standpoint is he's assigning a ton of down payment assistance dollars to single family homes. Our state agencies are being the beneficiary of that as well too, but down payment assistance is hugely important. I think from a New Jersey standpoint, one of the things that we have that's a little bit different from you is we have a state income tax and we have very high property taxes, which you don't have either of those issues, which I think is a benefit for Nevada.
And then Taylor, and let me give you your flowers starting off. You have done a phenomenal job of bringing different industries into Northern Nevada to be able to expand the workforce. And so, but of course, again, going to what I stated earlier, housing is not keeping up. And so as a state, we have lost multiple businesses because of the housing and wage issue, right? And so where do you see this affecting us going forward? Earlier, you touched on in your response that, from the federal perspective, if we don't change things around by the end of May, we could be looking at a recession. How would this ultimately really affect business, affect the industries that we're currently, have and what you've brought online in Nevada, particularly in Northern?
So, Maurice, I think this is a great question because, and you've kind of got to dive into the nuance of it. So, so even talking about in a recessionary period, markets are always simultaneously expanding and contracting. And so if the expansion is more than the contraction, then guess what? You're growing. If the contraction is more than the expansion, then you're in recession. I mean, that's a gross oversimplification, but that's really what it is. But on this issue, you really got to dive into the nuance of it, because from a tax-based standpoint, it can look like you're growing, but you might really be losing. And I'll give you an example. So like a single data center, which, by the way, I am for data centers. I mean, we're working on deals in that space every day. But like, there's one data center deal that I'm working on right now that is a single phase investment of over $1 billion. Now, we may not get it done, but I think we will. That data center is going to have 100 employees. Now, they're going to be 100 high-paid employees, but you're talking about hundreds of thousands of new square feet of industrial space that have 100 people working in them. That's vastly different than let me say, a 300,000 square foot distribution facility that's got 500 people in it, or like Tesla, the Tesla Panasonic facility here, more than 1 million square feet, but with 10,000 employees in it. So here's the thing that we've got to be careful of. We may see, and by the way, the reason I mentioned a data center, it's the most financeable deal in the marketplace right now, because you don't need employees, because you don't need public service, because all it needs is energy and dirt, and then they can figure that thing out. And so you think about it, we may see our tax base continuing to grow, but our population may be shrinking because people can't afford to live here. These are if you want to know what keeps me up at night, that's it. It's the thing that I'm confident that my team, and by the way, thank you for the accolades. Like anyone, it's the team behind me that has had that success, and I'm grateful for the hard work that they do every day. But like, for example, I'm confident that we can continue growing the economy here. That said, if we can't figure out the housing piece, it's going to grow with uses that employ fewer people, that don't create the pathways to lifelong learning and career fulfillment that we want all of our citizens to have, right? And so, or at least there won't be as many of those opportunities. So for us, it's critical that we solve it, because where our pipeline is robust today, I am not seeing nearly the employee burden on deals that we're looking at today that I was seeing even 18 months ago, which tells me that we're on the clock to get this solved.
Thank you. And then Alex, just in regards to, that conversation, how has the chamber gotten involved and you talked about it earlier, just in regards to the small businesses and construction, but can you elaborate on how the chamber is really intersecting economic development and affordable housing, or for that matter, attainable housing, in your mission or in your day-to-day? You're on mute.
Alex, you're muted.
I apologize. Two of the components that President Peter Guzman has been leading the charge up for on behalf of the Latin Chamber of Commerce has been the incentives to incentivize buyers to be able to afford. Just any help, whether it's 1%, 2% towards closing costs, can make or break these deals for these families. And with the influx of Californians coming in, it's really narrow where the numbers are at to make this work. Also, land. Taylor mentioned it before, that developers like the one I work for in Las Vegas, they're struggling to find land. They can't make the numbers work to make it affordable. So getting some sort of benefit, some sort of incentive from the government to build on land, make it more affordable to build on land, is also crucial to attain those numbers and get to those housing starts that we need.
Excellent. I kind of want to move into, again, now talking about public-private partnerships. We know to be able to scale where we would like to go and be able to move housing in that direction to be able to help out, we need to bring in more businesses, corporations, to be able to help us with subsidies, or with gap financing, or gap funding, I should say, with a lot of our projects. How has your institutions, organizations been able to create those public-private partnerships, if they have? And can you explain how that has come about, and where we should be able to take that moving forward? Taylor, you want to jump on with that?
Sure. So public-private partnership is something that, it's funny. It's a present conversation in Northern Nevada right now. I did notice that both Washoe County and the Reno Housing Authority have representatives on this call. Thank you all for joining. Where public-private partnerships are a relatively new concept here, having used it in other jurisdictions, where I think organizations like mine and can have been successful, is when we use public resources to get the infrastructure right, to then allow, and so once the infrastructure is right, we know the development will follow. And so and also referencing Washoe County and Reno that are on here, I mean, you've got organizations on this, in most communities that have the ability, that not only have the ability, have the subject matter expertise in delivering the types of housing that we're talking about, be that direct supportive, be that be that sort of less intensive programs, all the way through the spectrum, senior focused, all housing. I mean, you've got the subject matter expertise in most communities to deliver that. Where I think the organizations like mine can help to kick that off. Is like I say, let's get the infrastructure right. Let's get the site clear. Let's get the let's get water and sewer and power to the site. Let's please make sure that we've got broadband on the site, because my goodness, if there's nothing, it drives me crazy when people try to pretend that broadband's not a utility in America today, and in every shape, form, and fashion. I mean, if you don't have access to broadband, then you don't have access to society in our communities today. And so where I think that public-private partnership has been successful and will continue to be successful is when we use community resources to get the infrastructure right, and then let the organizations that have the subject matter expertise to deliver the specific housing then work with the private sector to make sure it happens. I think we've seen over and over again, and Ryan, you probably have better expertise on this than I do, but that is what I've seen work time and again.
100%. I would add to that, Taylor, and say for us, we're always trying to partner with the anchor institutions, I'll call them, in whatever market we are, whether it's a hospital, a university, the major employers. I think the ways we've worked with them has been, obviously a DPA program, managing that for them to incentivize their employees to stay in the markets or areas where they're key. We've seen hospital. We did a 56-unit low-income housing tax credit deal where the hospital was the landowner and they were the partner in the deal, and we provided supportive housing for people that were coming from the hospital. I just think all of those key anchors have to participate, both from a monetary standpoint and then also from a development standpoint. And to Taylor's point, when you're trying to get that infrastructure done, if you have a hospital behind you who is one of the major employers in the room, that conversation is a little bit different with the municipality. And so as a CDFI, and we're a nonprofit developer, so we're always trying to find those deals that are a little bit hairier. Those anchor institutions touching every single aspect of what we do is the most important thing. So they normally want to step in and take some accountability and hold them responsible. But again, having their employees benefit directly from the programs has been successful for us.
Alex, did you want to add anything to that?
On our part, I guess the only part that really applies is the DPA. Ryan touched on is the down payment assistance programs for the companies that are coming in to truly make it affordable. That's it on our end.
Excellent.
And Maurice, just to stay on that down payment assistance really quick, we did a very cool program with Atlantic City. We did a home ownership lottery where essentially we bought these properties on the market. We got some grant money from the state to actually develop them. The city then took the properties and we did a lottery with maybe 100 different candidates. All had to be existing Atlantic City residents for at least 5 years. There was a 15-year deed restriction, but they were given $100,000 for new construction homes. Atlantic City is a market where there is no new construction, and definitely not for people who are in the, call it 60, 120% AMI band. Highly successful. We're doing 10 more. Obviously, scale is the issue there. But again, just another example of the municipality stepping in and providing that. That was a huge subsidy source at $100,000. It's crazy.
Absolutely. That is pretty amazing. Absolutely. That's a great program. All right, let's shift the conversation a little bit to policy. And in particular, let's talk about our governor's proposed bill, Assembly Bill 540, which is attainability for housing. And so this is a $200 million investment. For those who are not aware, that is on the call. The key provisions of this bill include a creation of an attainable housing account, which would be a new state managed fund that is established at the state general fund. The initial appropriation will be around $200 million. This will be administered by the Nevada Housing Division and of the Department of Business and Industry. And the funds can be allocated for a wide range of purposes, including competitive grants, loans, land acquisition, and rental assistance. And so the definition and scope of attainable housing is it introduces a tier 4 affordable housing for households earning between 120 and 150% of the area median income. And so housing costs must not exceed 30% of a person's monthly gross income. And then there will be an attainable housing council that will be developed that will look at projects. We're also looking at local government empowerment and incentives. Counties and cities are required to adopt expedited permitting processes for attainable housing. inclusion of incentives for developers and local governments to participate in attainable housing projects, and revise procedures for land deposition to prioritize long-term health, local benefits and ensure transparency. I also said rental support is included, credit monitoring for renters to improve their credit score to go after home ownership, and then workforce development and contractor licensing flexibility, meaning that we would ease some of the restrictions, especially in the rural communities of Nevada, to be able to fast track and bring in new developers to bring in new housing. There is some conversations and some wording around planning and zoning reforms. So with that being said, this is a very advantageous bill. This is something that is very new for Nevada. This will prioritize smaller units. So you're looking at condos, duplexes, triplexes, smaller single family homes, roughly between the 12 to 1600 square foot radius. And what we're looking to do, ultimately what he's looking to do is be able to get more homes put on the market, be able to fast track individuals from affordable housing to home ownership possibility. How do you see this bill impacting the economic community, number one? So we're looking at our developers, we're looking at our contractors, we're looking at even our industries. How does this affect that market? What is your thoughts on it? Is this something that you would be in favor of moving forward or going forward? Alex, if you want to take the lead on this one, and then we'll switch over to Taylor.
Yes, sir. So 100% behind this bill. I think something to highlight as well, Maurice, is that this economic impact of a total of $250 million by Governor Lombardo would equal roughly $1 billion in housing development, which of course, huge help for Nevada. And the DPAs or these incentives to get these families into the properties. The process is where they have to lock them in through the lender, correct? So I think that us being ahead of the curve and knowing exactly what the programs will entail so we can inform the local Las Vegas residents of taking advantage of this. The last times that it's been done, it's been fantastic, so much so the funds run out quickly, right? So it's just speed to getting this done for our community.
Absolutely. And the 50 million is actually coming from the housing division. So the 200 million is from the state general, and then the 50 million is from the housing division and their investments that they will be able to add to this.
Correct, sir.
Maurice, we also support the bill and are grateful to the governor for his leadership. You know, we've talked a lot on the call so far about multifamily housing and direct supportive housing, things of that nature, but we do think that owner-occupied housing is critical to the future of Nevada and specifically, if you think about it, we've seen the population of our state diversify in a way that's really healthy. However, what's kind of challenging in the moment is when you look at it, I think it's 60% of our residents, give or take, still have a mortgage rate that's under 4%. And what that's done is that's really removed churn from the market. Well, what's great about our state, and I'm not by any means saying that we've achieved what we needed to do here. I'm just saying that we've made progress. So in the sense that our state has started to diversify, we've done a pretty good job over the last 20 years of just now starting to create income opportunities for our newer, more diverse population that are showing growth in what would be attainment and buying power in our community. Now we got a long way to go, but it's important. But we've made some progress here. And what's cool about the progress that we've made here is that you got people that would love to buy a house, but because we don't have the supply and we haven't had the housing starts, we've denied this part of our community the opportunity to own not entirely, but we've allowed we got a lot of young professionals that just hadn't been able to enter the market. And so the type of owner-occupied housing that this bill provides gives us an opportunity to get these younger generations into the home ownership cycle. And when you consider that the vast majority of American net worth is still in our homes, I think this is critical to continuing to provide access to the economy for people who haven't always had it. And so I fully support this bill, and my organization does as well.
Ryan, did you want to add anything? I know you're out of state, so this is not very familiar, it's not in your wheelhouse, but any thoughts to this, or anything that jumped out?
No, I mean, I think Taylor hit it. This is transformational just from a single family standpoint. I guess the devil's always in the detail with the compliance, right? I mean, we always joke
Right.
about that, Maurice, but what type of restrictions are going to come with the dollars, I think is really, really important. But that is tremendous to have that focused on a lot of single family.
Absolutely. And I believe, again, that a lot of the details of this bill has not been hashed out. And so that is still a work in process. But I think the ultimate idea is to bring in more market rate housing. It is moving away from single family. I'm sorry, affordable housing development. But again, looking at where we're going to be in the next 15 years, 15, 20 years, where we'll need over roughly about 480,000 units. This is that injection that we need as a community to be able to, get on the right path, and hopefully we can, find other partnerships, other subsidies, other avenues of money or funding that we can expand on this. Taylor, you bring up something, you talked about like generational wealth, talked about, folks not being able to get into the housing market. Here's what I'm seeing and what I'm observing, and tell me if I'm wrong. And this is like a two-part question. And actually, I'm gonna open it up to everybody, but I would love Taylor to start it off. What I'm seeing is when you talk about our younger generation, our younger workforce, I've had multiple conversations with these individuals, and their thing is, because of the housing costs, because of the lack of wages, particularly in Nevada, right? They have no interest in home ownership. Now, I don't know if it's because they're just not knowledgeable, right? They wasn't aware of what real estate is and what can be for them. I don't know if it's just they see that their parents or whoever is struggling or is house poor. They buy these big homes and to be able to maintain it. They run into extra debt. The list goes on and on. Question is, number one, how do we change that fear of home ownership to our younger workforce, right? And then best case scenario for you, again, we talked about how many organizations and companies you've brought into, Northern Nevada. Crystal ball, what would be ideal, how much housing do you realistically need in your area right now?
Yeah. So I'll take them in reverse. How much do I need? As much as I can get. I'm about 5,000 units light based on just our 10-year projection. And that's but taking it back a step further, I also want to say, and this is where I try to give, I have the same conversations with young professionals that you do, Maurice, and I hear the same thing. And it really scares me because, but also you got to think about if you're a young professional in the market, particularly from the West, you may very well have seen your family lose everything in 2008 and have to start over from scratch. And right about the time you recovered, we had a global health pandemic that again destabilized the market for another 2 years. And I don't know, since the Great Depression that we've put a single generation of this country through as much as young people have dealt with starting in 2008 and coming forward. I mean, we have 4 children. My oldest is 18, and I think I see just the impact the pandemic had on them. I can't imagine how he would have felt if he were 10 years older when 2008 happened. You know what I mean? It's just I mean, we were fortunate our family made it through, but a lot of our friends and a lot of were just deeply affected by the Great Recession. So yeah, I mean, I think we got to do a better job of creating opportunities for young folks. And this is where I don't mean to pick out one developer. It's just this is the first one that came to mind for this type of housing. I think about I think about Tom McCormick and see, and Mauricio, no, I didn't pick one of mine. I picked somebody I picked somebody in the South, so I'm not picking favorites. But I think about what Tom McCormick's group's been doing over the last 20 years to sort of bring like Ryan was saying, a denser housing product to market that but that is amenitized like like apartment or multifamily living, so that there is a seamless transition, and really just and there are multiple developers in Nevada doing this. I wish we had 10 more, but the idea is to sort of say, okay, look, if you're paying rent, you can live here and you'll own it. And here's what your equity looks like over 5 years, 10 years, 15 years. And oh, by the way, when you have a family and you're ready for something bigger, you now got a nut to take with you. I mean, we've got to do a better job of helping young professionals, one, understand that they have options in the market, but two, that, let's not think about today. Let's think about the fact, I mean, none of us, we may all want to work forever, but we will all reach a point where we want the opportunity, we want the option not to, you know what I mean? And so,
Absolutely.
and really the only way to do that is really to sort of, I won't say the only way, but the way that has historically happened over the last century in this country, it's been through home ownership. And so my hope is that we can return to more of what has been a normal trend for our society.
And Maurice, I just want to jump in because Taylor said something. I think one of the things that we do homeownership counseling. And so we've probably done a couple thousand individuals who are not even ready to buy homes, but them just going through the process of, we work with Navicor, which is a national organization. And so they sit down, they have one-on-one. They just need to understand what it takes to actually learn a home. So I think the education part of it up front, we're able to pay through that. We pay for it for people as a free service. It's important. I think they'll get there. The other thing I wanted to touch on was just, we also have a Section 8 voucher conversion program for home ownership that's run by a lot of our housing authorities. Something that I don't know how prevalent it is in Nevada. I'm sure Taylor's shaking his head, so I'm sure he's seen it there. But that's also something that we've been using a lot of as well, too.
And then Alex, working with the Latin Chamber of Commerce, working, and I think you noted earlier that you work with the young entrepreneurs in the community and whatnot. What are you seeing from the Black and Brown community to expand on, what are their ideas around home ownership, entrepreneurship, and understanding the politics around economic development and housing?
Two words that stood out is financial literacy, and to mention what Ryan was just saying is also informing them, right? So some of the workshops that we've done through the Latin Chamber and through the Young Professionals Network is bringing examples of developers that are boots on the ground that can vouch for this. I'm part of the millennial group, so I've seen just what Taylor was mentioning. I've been seeing the crisis in 2008, also COVID. I've seen my friends that have been affected by it, and now the average price in Las Vegas for being $485,000 is tough to digest because that translates roughly, depending on your interest rate, of course, but $3,000 payment. Most people do veer away from that. But once you give them the examples, how you can retire, how you can build wealth through owning 1, 2, 3 properties, and also leveraging the fact that 90% of all millionaires throughout the world have achieved so through home ownership, right? That's normally we see the light bulb pop up in these kids or this community, this age group's brains when they say, oh, okay, I really can do it. I can achieve it. It's just doing it well. Real estate has been the best investment in modern age, right? In the United States, especially so.
Excellent. So one final question, and then we'll get to the comments. We've had a few questions come in, but just want to wrap up. My final question would be, and again, you can expand as much as you can on it, is what other innovations are you seeing around capital stacking or blending public-private funding to make housing deals more feasible in high-cost markets like Nevada, and for this matter, New Jersey?
Want me to start, Maurice?
Please, go ahead.
Sure. I mean, I think we're probably using the same subsidy programs that everybody else is. I mean, we do have some historic buildings here, so the historic tax credit is also prevalent here in New Jersey as well too. But, you know, like I said, CDBG, home funds, we're seeing all of the kind of capital stacking that everybody else is doing. We have heard some intel that the opportunity zone is going to be a focus of this administration to kind of re-engage it. And it could be something where it gets a lot more flexible, where that money goes directly to CDFIs or smaller organizations. One of the things I would say from a CDFI community standpoint, you know, we work with a lot of smaller developers that are mission focused. And like I said, scale is always an issue with them, but the fact that they have support through organizations like us allows them to take these little chunks out of what we need to do to hit the larger mission. And I think building that standpoint and building that community in Nevada can be really, really good. The CDFIs usually tap into lower cost of capital, although that's changing right now with everything that's going on. Whether it's CRA dollars or, you know, some of the larger CDFIs are able to issue bonds. And so when you're able to find a CDFI that can contribute that lower cost of capital, it's really, really transformational in terms of getting into those projects. We also provide bridge financing, development financing for deals that other people won't touch on. Again, you just got to think about it. These are going to be smaller transactions because the loan size or equity size has to be small.
Excellent. Taylor, Alex, do you have anything?
I think Ryan pretty much hit the nail on the head. I mean, the truth is, you know, with rates sort of holding where they are right now, I mean, we're seeing higher than traditional equity requirements to make a cap rate work. I mean, I'm talking to some of my colleagues on the East Coast. They're routinely seeing 35+% equity ratios required for market rate housing deals right now. It's just most of what's getting done is being done through with some sort of federal assistance that I'm seeing, and certainly through the other programs that Ryan mentioned. But one thing that I haven't said yet that I should have said is, and I'm grateful that Ryan's on the call today because he's really demonstrated the power of a CDFI in a community and what that can be. I mean, it's not something that we have really seen proliferate through Nevada. We have a handful of good. I think they're primarily like credit unions and whatnot that have gotten CDFI sort of certification. But you see there's a broad toolkit that can be brought to bear on the housing side. I always think of a CDFI like the housing version of the small business development centers that I work with on a day-to-day basis. So yeah, really appreciate, you know, Ryan sort of talking about the full set of tools that a CDFI can bring to a community.
Absolutely. Alex, did you have anything that you want to chime in?
And on our end, being boots on the ground, more on the realtor side of things, it's just any and all incentives that our lenders can provide for us to be able to feature them and put them in front of our local buyers is a huge major win. Anything from teachers, first responders, any kind of programs that just help. I mean, these guys are talking about the higher level, but low level boots on the ground is we're all in for anything we can take.
Excellent. All right, so we have a few more minutes, so we'll take a few questions from the chat in question. Again, if you do have any questions that you would like to get answered, you can put those in the chat, or we have a Q&A function at the bottom. And so David has a question that says, has the hospitality industry in your state, and I'm guessing this is going towards Ryan, participated in helping their employees have the opportunity for home ownership? Back east, or I guess for us, back east, they have not done enough.
I would tell you, so we're working with the gentleman who bought this showboat. Now they do contribute. Atlantic City there's a lot of bureaucracy on the East Coast, so there's some other quasi-government entities that are involved. We don't see them as active as they probably should be, especially in Atlantic City where they are the largest employer. But they do some things. We've been more successful again with the hospitals there. Whenever we have to kind of reach out to those gaming folks, we really need to bring the mayor in and have that kind of conversation. So they're generally just apprehensive to really helping us out in the way that we need to. Hoping to change that though.
Excellent. And then Lena asks, in a prior Lunch and Learn webinar, a statistic was cited about a large number of investors who have purchased single family homes in Las Vegas, which diminishes the inventory and creates a seller market. Has any thought been given to curtailing this behavior, especially in neighborhoods with mostly low income or moderate income census tracts? I can start this off in saying that this has been a huge topic of interest and concern, not only at the state level, but at the federal level. We have Senator Dina Neal, who has come out with a couple of different bills around corporate investors coming in. She wants to be able to limit them to 100 purchases per year. The issue with that, of course, is if they develop multiple LLCs, it's hard to track. From a federal perspective, you have Congressman Horsford and his team that are working to establish policies that will curtail the multitude of purchases that are being done. Especially in his district, it was realized that he has a large percentage of those investors are coming into his district, which is District 4, and they have bought up multiple properties and are selling them or renting them out at a higher rate, which really kills the renters or individuals that are first-time home buyers, being so they don't have the cash. And so I believe you had one New York investor that actually bought, I want to say almost $1 billion worth of properties in Nevada just last year. And so that has definitely curtailed the market and have given bleak opportunities for other folks to jump in. Anyone else want to add to that?
I'll just add that I think it's really important that we learn from the present. We do have sort of new housing constructors, new housing general construction companies and development companies, like the one I just mentioned, that are willing to entertain deed restrictions to ensure that this type of that, like I say, it's hard to go back and rewrite zoning and rewrite deeds, once a product is in the market and performing. But there is an opportunity to use deed restrictions in the short term to ensure that the housing that we're building is going to the purpose that we meant. And my organization generally supports that activity.
Ryan,
do you have any land trust? No, well, in the Northeast, it's a little bit different because our property taxes are so high, and most of our product is already built. We have a lot of investors who are pushing prices in areas that we've never seen before, but mostly individual and private, not necessarily the bigger developers who are coming in. We have seen some of that in Maryland on the East Coast as well, too. To your point, I've definitely seen some people pushing for legislation to kind of slow that down. But if we can get more product out here, I think land trusts or something. Taylor kind of touched on that in terms of the deed restrictions. Taylor, I go back and forth on the land trust because you're almost handicapping a little bit of that appreciation for the homeowner that we've talked so much about, but then you're also making sure that land stays affordable. So there's a few places that have done it really well. Durham, North Carolina, their community land trust is amazing. They share in some of that appreciation, but I think a land trust can be something that you look at since you guys have some land. I know we're talking about BLM, but I saw some vacant land when I was there, Maurice, a little bit more than I see here. So I was excited.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, absolutely.
Ryan, I couldn't agree more. So that's why I say we generally support it. And full disclosure, so I came here from Virginia Beach, which is only about 3 hours, 2.5 from Durham. I sort of envied that land trust, the entire the sort of that whole sort of research triangle area just really built a great system. Got to give them props.
Yeah, definitely.
Absolutely. And so, and again, one of the final questions that we had come in was dual. We see it in the chat and I see it in the Q&A, and it was just talking about of the 80+% or the 80% of the land that is federally owned, how much of it is actually developable, can be developed right now. And so I think we're running into multiple issues with that. Number one, you have roughly about 80% of the land that is 80 to 84% roughly is owned or managed by the federal government. 63% of it is managed by BLM. When you talk about what is developed, what can be developed right now, the issues that we run into is infrastructure. Who's going to build the roads, schools, utilities, bring out utilities? Do we have enough water? We always say we have enough water, but who knows where that's going to go? our resource. We have limited resources to be able to build out. And then there's also regulatory and policy issues that goes in behind a lot of that. But to kind of give you an idea, for some of the folks that's on the call, in the city of Henderson, there's a ton of land that's available, roughly about 78 1,000 feet of land that is available to be developed. And so again, it's equivalent to the city of Henderson. And I'm sorry, I misstated that. We have 78,000 worth of land available in Southern Nevada, which is the equivalent of the size of the city of Henderson that can be developed on. But again, due to a lack of resources, due to policies and lack of resources, it is going to be very hard. We always have the conversation of, if we open up land, we can definitely we can try to, curtail the housing issue, bring down prices and things of that nature. But honestly speaking, the opening up land is just going to be, it's just one process that we can do. Again, we have to definitely look at other opportunities of where we're going to get the monies from and the resources to be able to build out, because we can build on those lands, but if you still have to purchase a car, pay for car insurance, gas, maintenance, childcare, this, that, and the third, it's not going to be affordable when we talk about affordability. So hopefully that answered that question in regards to that. If everybody could just give a quick 30 seconds, we have 2 minutes left. Taylor, Ryan, Alex, thank you so much. I really appreciate y'all being on the call today. I think this was a very, very great conversation that we had, something that we should continue to build upon moving forward. But I'll allow each of you to have about 30 seconds just to wrap up and give your final thoughts.
All right, so I'll just say thanks so much for having me. It's been a lot of fun. Really enjoyed it.
Alex.
Thank you guys as well for having me. Had a great time here, and just excited for Nevada, excited where our state is headed towards. Our future is bright.
Absolutely. Ryan?
Yeah, I would echo that too. Maurice, when I came out and met with you and Amanda, I would tell you I'm very excited about your market. I think it's a little bit younger than what we have going on here, and even though you have issues, you have a lot of opportunities. If you get that AB 540 and some land released, we're probably having a different conversation. So I would say just keep doing the good work. If there's anything I can do to help, happy to be here and be a resource.
Thank you so much. Gentlemen, lady, thank you so much for your time today. Everyone that is on the call, thank you for being a part of our Lunch and Learn. Appreciate you sharing your lunch with us. Look forward to seeing everyone next month. Have a great afternoon. Thank you.